Hey everybody! I just wanted to put together a quick little video of some of the reasons that I haven't had a turning video out in a while. Back in August, we had a show in Petoskey, and we tore down and we're getting ready to go home, and I checked the lights and the tires and everything before we left and realized we had a screw. Now, even though I have like 3 different options for roadside assistance, I couldn't get anybody to come change the tire on the camper. So we did it, and in doing so, we discovered that the frame on the camper was cracked and it broke when we jacked it up. So I was able to get the tire changed, but now we have a bigger problem in that we can't tow this trailer. And I know from experience with our smaller camper that it can't go on a flatbed because it's too tall. So I started poking around and I realized that we had the same kind of crack starting on the other side in the same place, as well as over the front axle and one of the spots by where the slide out comes out. So at this point, it's like 11 o'clock Saturday night. We're both exhausted. Marie and I have to go home and start getting ready for the Ann Arbor Art Fair, which is an enormous show, and that started on Wednesday. We had to be there. So we just left the camper in the parking lot. We called and left a message for a mobile welding repair guy like at 11:30 Saturday night. He called us back Sunday morning, and he was able to get out there and he repaired the spot that had broken away from the frame, and then he welded a patch of 1/4 inch plate steel over that part of the frame to basically reinforce it. After seeing what happened on the passenger side and that the driver's side was cracked the same way, we didn't take a chance on that coming all the way off, and we had him make the same patch repair on the other side. And big kudos to State Farm for reimbursing us for this emergency repair. I mean, there really wasn't anything else that we could do. It couldn't be towed safely, and it had to be just fixed there on site, but they didn't give us any hassle about it. They looked at the pictures and they said, yes, here's your reimbursement. So that was lovely. So here's your PSA for the day. If you have a camper, a travel trailer, a fifth wheel, check your frame. And if you have any spots that look like this, check it further. The vast majority of the frames made for all RV manufacturers are now made by one company. They have had some issues. If you do a YouTube search about RV frames, you'll find lots of people in the same boat that we're in here. So do yourself a favor, take a peek, do it frequently, and make sure that you don't have anything looking like this, because that is going to be a problem. We were really lucky that we had a flat tire and that I had to change it, and I realized that, that this was a problem. If this had happened while we were driving, I can't even imagine the catastrophe that could have been. The emergency repair guy took care of the imminent issues, and I am fortunate in that I have a friend who's a metal worker and has welding equipment. I spent a couple of days up at his house and we made the same kind of patches along the entire length of the frame where the suspension attaches. Again, we used 1/4 inch plate steel, and that should now be rigid enough to hold itself. The roof had started leaking kind of in the general vicinity of the wood stove chimney last winter, and we really thought that it was an ice dam situation. But then it started leaking when it was raining, but not always when it was raining, only sometimes. So I got up on the second floor and started poking around. When we bought the house, the wood stove wasn't even installed. They had just taken the chimney down and patched the hole in the roof with another piece of sheet steel. So we had the local fireplace dealer come out and reinstall the ductwork properly. Um, and that should have been fine. So when I got up there and started looking around, I'm just looking at this patch and it's a mess. There's so many places that the water could be coming in. I didn't even know where to start. And I decided that the best thing, and honestly the easiest thing, would probably be to just get another piece of sheet steel and replace the whole thing and then cut the chimney in from scratch. So the first thing that involved was special ordering the stupid blue roof panel. And then I had to rent a 26-foot U-Haul to go pick it up because I could have had it delivered, but they can't get a semi-truck down the little 2-track that we live on, so I had to go get it and then maneuver the 26-foot U-Haul truck back in there. Next problem was getting that 20-foot long panel up on the roof. So we laid down one of the extension ladders, and between the three of us, we were able to get it up on the roof safely, and it is now clamped into place while I start looking at what we're going to do next. So the first thing is I had to spend a little time getting the storm collar off of the chimney stack. That didn't go too badly. And I imagine that the wood stove company had to have done this, but this makes no sense to me. This is like some weird attempt at a cricket made out of silicone. I don't even know. So I got the cap off and I pulled the rest of the stack out. And then I decided that as long as we had the thing open, I should probably go ahead and clean the top part of the chimney because that doesn't usually get done. So now you can see what a mess this patch is. There's caulk everywhere. It took me longer to get the silicone caulk to release to get this patch piece off than it did any of the other things. The screws at the bottom of the patch are way too close to the edge. We got the panel and the patch off of the roof and safely down onto the ground. And I was absolutely stunned that all of this was dry underneath here. None of the insulation was wet. You can see where it was stained from where it had been leaking before, but none of the insulation was wet. The problem, it turns out, was a combination of this attic ventilation foam board stuff and those screws that were put too close to the edge of the patch. The water was wicking up to those screws underneath the patch, and this was made worse by this funny little blob of caulk, which was helping to hold some water up in that general vicinity, and then running down onto the foam board and making a pool. And if it didn't rain hard enough to overflow it, it would eventually dry up. But when it rained hard, it would overflow and then come down inside the wall. The best part about all of that, though, is that it didn't get the insulation wet. So the only thing that we're going to have to deal with is fixing the interior drywall, which is going to be a nightmare in and of itself because it's vaulted and it's not an easy thing to get at. So that's a project for another day. And also for another day is going to be reinstalling the wood stove stack because we don't need it yet. It's still only September and we have a lot of other things going on. I've already installed one wood stove in another building where it didn't have a wood stove chimney, and that went relatively smoothly. I've got the correct flashing kit for it, so as soon as I have a dry day, I'll get up there and get that done. But in the meantime, here is my ugly blue roof. I certainly wish they could have picked some other color for the roofing than blue, but here it is. And of course, it's not even the same color. I don't know if the manufacturers changed the color a little bit or if it's just faded and weathered and whatever, but boy, it hurt my feelings to have to special order that. The start switch on my 22-year-old Penn State Industries dust collector. This is a DC1, I think the model is. Anyway, it's a 1 horsepower single stage dust collector. I've had it since 2001. The switch puked on me, so I ordered another one, and in the meantime I just rigged up a toggle switch, which works, but it obviously requires 2 hands, and it's I think it's only a 15 amp rating on that, whereas the replacement paddle switch was a 20. Anyway, I got the other one in, so I just thought I'd make a quick video of the installation process. It should be pretty straightforward. First thing I'm going to do is unplug this guy so we don't get electrocuted. I'm going to take off my temporary solution here. That was just to keep the dust out of it. So make sure you can see that. It's wired already with the switch or with the spade connectors. So for the toggle switch that I had in the shop, I just wired some ends on it, and that worked for the time being. And now that can be back to an emergency switch for something some other day. So this is the one that came out of it. It's a J093. This one is only a 120 volt version. This is what I ordered. I got it from Amazon, and it is a 110 or a 110 or 220, so that's fine. These switches also go on a whole bunch of other things, drum sanders and a lot of other equipment. So the difference, of course, is that there are more terminals on the one that has the option for the 220. I'm going to assume that I'm just going to use the same two that it was before. I'm guessing that makes sense. So it's going to be these two. And since this is just breaking it, it shouldn't matter which one goes where. All right. We'll test it before we put it back together. Okay. So that's correct. So now I'm actually going to undo it because I need to put this back in here. I think I want it to go, I guess it doesn't matter. This is just going to slide in here with the clips. Okay. And then we were on one side. We're going to put this back on one side. Try not to hit the tripod. Oh, there's a little, hold on, there's a little lip, I think should go. Oh, I see it goes down. Okay, that's actually easier, so I'm glad it goes down instead of up inside. There we go. Success. We like it when it goes like it's supposed to. Easy peasy lemon squeezy. All right, it's one more thing I can check off my list. So those are a couple of the reasons that I haven't been in the wood shop. But in addition to checking things off the list, we've also still been trying to get out on the North Country Trail and get some hiking in. That's kind of fallen by the wayside as we've had our last little flurry of Michigan shows, but we did get out a few times and get 5 or 6 miles on. So, and we do actually rest occasionally, usually when there's football on. And Walter is providing Bailey with a very nice eye mask. So I'm still here. I'm still doing all the things. I'll be back to turning as soon as I can. Hopefully I'm going to get some stuff put out before I have my shoulder surgery in November. Until then, I appreciate you guys sticking with me. Everybody stay safe out there.